Good morning. The April 8th, 2020 meeting of the Board of Estimates is now called to order. In the interest of promoting and maintaining health and safety as our nation continues to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, the Board of Estimates continues to be streamed virtually. Madam Comptroller, are there any corrections, additions, or deferrals on the agenda? Madam Comptroller, you have to unmute yourself.
There you go.
There you go.
Good morning. Please note that on pages 27 through 28, items 1 and 2, an additional response to the protest was received from Bishop L. Robinson Jr. dated April the 6th, 2020, on behalf of Allied Contractors, Inc. Please note that we're moving to the non-routine, pages 27 through 28, items 1. Please note that there are no abstentions for the Honorable Mayor Young. Please note that there are no abstentions for the Honorable President Scott. Please note that page 5, that the Honorable Comptroller is abstaining on page 5. Please note that Acting City Solicitor Dana Moore will be abstaining on page 5, pages 15 and 16, and page 17, item 1. Thank you.
Thank you. I would direct the board members' attention to the memorandum from my office dated April 6, 2020, identifying matters to be considered as routine agenda items together with any corrections and additions that have been noted by the comptroller. I will entertain a motion to approve all the items contained on the routine agenda.
Mr. President, I move approval of the items on the routine agenda.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion carries. The routine agenda items have been adopted. The first item on the non-routine agenda can be found on pages 27 through 28, items 1 and 2. Recommendation for contract award, conduit system reconstruction. We have received protests on this item. We will hear first from Mr. Daschle on behalf of Highlander Contracting Company first, and followed by Mr. Robinson on behalf of Allied Contractor and response from the agency after that. Mr. Daschle, the floor is yours.
Shield.
Good morning. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. President and Mr. Mayor and other members of the board. And I appreciate the extent to which you've gone to proceed with this matter under obviously what are very trying circumstances. And I apologize for my lack of technological expertise to be able to participate fully in the way that I'd anticipated. In any event, the issues here are relatively simple. We contend that Allied is not a responsible bidder because it has knowingly violated the provisions of the Book of Specifications, the Green Book, as it relates to the use of subcontractors. And I know that that's a serious matter with the board because just last week, the utilization of subcontractors without prior city approval was one of the bases that upon which the board recommended initiation of a debarment proceeding against a different firm. In this instance, we contend we raised. I submitted a letter of protest on March 9th in which I stated that on information and belief, Allied Contractors permitted a firm known as J.M. Murphy Enterprises to work on a number of city contracts without Murphy having been approved to enter upon the job site in accordance with the provisions of the Green Book. Before I go further, I think it's important to spend a second just explaining what being pre-qualified means. It really means having the available work capacity at the appropriate time. Now, at the appropriate time for a prime contractor means at bid time, because under the city rules, if you don't have available work capacity, and available work capacity is a dollar figure that's assigned by the Office of Boards and Commissions, and it tells the city that a contractor can be trusted to do certain kind of work up to a certain dollar amount. For a bidder, for a prime contractor, that determination of pre-qualification is in two parts. One, you can't buy the bid book, you can't buy the bidding documents unless you have a certificate saying that you have the appropriate work capacity and dollar value. And two, you can't be awarded the contract unless the available work capacity on the date of award is no less than the amount of the contract to be awarded. Available work capacity means the dollar value that was assigned initially at the time you got pre-qualified minus backlog. Backlog means the dollar value of all work that you have underway, including the work that may not have been started but has been awarded through in prior contracts. For a subcontractor, the time at which the pre-qualification or work capacity is determined is not at bid time or time of award. Rather, it's at the time that the subcontractor would come onto the job site and initiate work. Under the Green Book, when a prime contractor is ready or anticipating the use of a subcontractor, and this has nothing to do with whether you're an MBE or non-MBE, the prime contractor is supposed to submit the subcontractor's name to the project engineer, or whoever the representative is for the city on the project. And along with that submission, you're supposed to provide evidence that the subcontractor has available work capacity in an amount no less than the dollar value of the subcontractor's contract. Well, we, of course, don't know. We listed a number of contracts where Allied has utilized Murphy in the past, even at times when Murphy didn't even have the certificate between 2018 and 2020, up until a few months ago. But we said on information and belief, we think that Allied is guilty of violating the terms of the Green Book by allowing Murphy to come onto the job site to do work without having submitted the company and the proof of work capacity as required in the Green Book. Now, and I said that initially in a letter to the city, I think dated March 2nd. On March 4th, DOT, I think Ms. Simmons, sent a letter back, said that based on their investigation, they didn't find any evidence that that was true. Well, it's impossible for such an investigation to have occurred within 2 days, because the reality of it is the only way you know who's on a job site, whether it's a subcontractor, material supplier, or anybody else, is to look at the daily logs from the contract. And I say it's impossible because there's no way within 48 hours DOT could have examined the daily logs from all the contracts that we mentioned on which Murphy was identified as a subcontract. It's just literally impossible for anybody to have done that. Rather, I think what really happened is that Ms. Simmons really didn't understand what pre-qualification meant. I think, and I think that her understanding probably was that pre-qualification simply meant that you had a certificate of assigned work capacity by Office of Boards and Commissions, and that's part of it. But it's not the part that determines whether or not you're entitled to come onto the job site. That part requires a calculation of work capacity, of the available work capacity. And that I don't think was done, and for certain I don't believe that DOT could possibly have done an investigation of that within a 48-hour period. But then the ultimate question for the board is, assuming for sake of discussion that it happened, that it being, let's say that Allied did in fact utilize a subcontractor, perhaps other subcontractors as well, but let's say that Allied did use Murphy on the job site without having the prior approval from the city as required in the Green Book. The question for the board would be, does that establish that Allied lacks the adequate integrity for award of the pending contract? That's a matter of the board's discretion, quite frankly. There's no bright light for determining what integrity means. There's no bright light for determining whether the presence or absence of integrity ultimately means the contractor or the bidder is responsible or not responsible. That's within your discretion. Our point simply is, if a contractor who is legally obligated to know what the rules are, and if the city, which is legally obligated and in order to maintain a level playing field, legally obligated to follow its own rules, are there any circumstances here where, if it's true that I did allow subcontractors to work without approval, are there any circumstances here where that failure should be waived, excused, or are the facts here sufficient to allow the board, in exercise of its sound and good discretion, to say, we don't care? It's okay. We still find that they're responsible for the purpose of the pending bid. Now, I think the only way to make that determination without doing the real investigation is to say that it doesn't matter. I urge you not to take that position, because what you'd really be saying is it doesn't matter whether contractors follow the rules or not. That does not bode well for the integrity of the competitive bidding process under the charter at all. We can have a process where there's a level playing field for all bidders if from time to time we decide that certain rules apply and certain rules don't apply, without even having first an investigation to find out whether or not the rules were violated. So what I urge you to do, and what I urge you to do in reality, is to undertake the initial investigation that I don't think DOT did, which is to determine, as a matter of fact, whether Allied, in fact, did utilize Murphy on job sites without first having obtained the requisite approval from the city, from DOT inspectors or the project engineers or whatever. I haven't seen either in Allied's response filed a couple of days ago, or in DOT's response from Ms. Simmons, even in any indication that DOT even asked Allied the question. I mean, they said they'd done an investigation. They said they didn't see any evidence of it. Well, there are a lot of reasons why you don't see evidence. One of the reasons, of course, is that you didn't look. The other reason is you didn't know what you were looking for. But at a very minimum, it seems to me that DOT should have issued an inquiry to Allied, asking them to bring forward the documentation to show that, in fact, they did follow the rules in terms of having Allied and Murphy work on the job site. I don't see any evidence that was done.
Mr. Dash,
I don't see any evidence that. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Wrap it up in a minute, please.
Okay. Well, I don't see any evidence that was done, and there's clearly evidence that Murphy was identified as a subcontractor as recently as July of 2019, at a time when it didn't have even a certificate from the Office of Boards and Commissions. That's sufficient to trigger, it seems to me, an obligation to conduct a real investigation, which I don't think, as I said, was conducted here. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. We will now hear from Allied Contractor and Mr. Robinson.
Mr. Robinson is not available at this time. He has not arrived. We've got a problem with the virus, I'm not sure.
Sir, you're gonna have to come close. You're gonna have to come closer to the mic.
This is Doug Franz with Allied Contractors.
Thank you. Go ahead. We can hear you now.
Did you hear that Mr. Bishop is not here? I mean, Mr. Robinson has not arrived yet.
Yeah, please identify yourself for the record.
Yeah, this is Douglas Franz, a vice president with Allied Contractors.
Go ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Yes, I would, of course, point you to Mr. Robinson's letter. I think it speaks for itself. In regard to the city not approving Mr. Murphy to work on the various projects, that has never been raised by the city. When you first bid a project, you turn in a minority participation program, proposed one that is, and it has to go to the, let's see here, it's the Minority and Women's Business Opportunity Office for their review. And whenever we have included Mr. Murphy or J.M. Murphy or any of our other subcontractors, they've been approved by that office. Then the project moves to award. After award, we turn in all of our subcontract agreements with the various minorities and WBEs that we're going to be utilizing that have been approved by the prior office I mentioned. And at no time has the city said that Mr. Murphy or J.M. Murphy Enterprises is not pre-qualified sufficiently.
All right.
So it has been approved by the city by both that Minority Women's Business Opportunity Office, and also be it the using agency, be it transportation, public works, rec and parks, the various different agencies that we've worked for over the many, many, many years.
All right. Thank you. Is that all for you, sir?
Excuse me?
Is that all you have?
That's all for now. Thank you.
Can't hear.
We will now hear from the agency, DOT.
For the Department of Transportation, and we support the.
Please restate your name for the record, please. You were quiet. You at first.
Letitia Griffin, Deputy of Administration for the Department of Transportation. Regarding
Ms. Griffin, can you pause for 1 second? There's some feedback in your area. If there's more than one device in the area that's coming through, can you please shut one of them off, please? All right, try again now.
Is that better?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Prior to award contract, the agency verifies the pre-qualification of all of the subcontractors and the prime contract. And in all of the prior contracts Mr. DeShields mentioned.
Ms. Griffin, hold on for 1 second. Can everyone mute themselves, please?
Mr. President, can you have her start again, because it's going to be hard for us to transcribe.
Yeah, I will. I'm just 1 second, Madam Comptroller. Once you get everyone muted, we're going to mute everybody and then ask Ms. Griffin to unmute herself. So everyone, please go on mute now. Okay, Ms. Griffin, start over again from the top, please.
Good morning. My name is Letitia Griffin. I'm the Deputy of Administration for the Department of Transportation. As a practice in evaluating all bids submitted, we evaluate whether the prime and all of their subcontractors are pre-qualified. So prior to award of the contracts that were mentioned, the DOT contracts that were mentioned by Mr. DeShields, we did validate that J.M. Murphy was pre-qualified before we even awarded the contract. And I mean, that was our investigation to determine, did we do that validation before making the recommendation for award to the Board of Estimates? That's all I have.
Thank you. This law, you want to chime in about this one?
Good morning, Mr. President.
Good
Mike,
morning.
Law Department. I would point out to the board that the determination that a contractor is not a responsible bidder is a very, very serious matter. And I have looked at what both Mr. DeShields has submitted and what Allied's attorneys have submitted, and have looked at what DOT has been able to reveal in its investigation, which was not a cursory investigation. It was a thorough investigation to the extent that we can do so with the records that are available for these old contracts. And I do not think that there is sufficient evidence before this body to find that Allied is not a responsible company. You need evidence to substantiate that kind of ruling, and it simply is not present here. Mr. DeShields, as the protester, has the burden of proof. And as he said several times in his presentation, he's working on information and belief. There is no proof that I have seen, that DOT has seen, that there was anything was done, it was incorrect here. The subcontractors do not have to be pre-qualified until they start their work. And to the best of DOT's ability, they make sure that that's happened, they are pre-qualified, and that they stay pre-qualified. So I would submit that in the absence of compelling evidence, the board simply does not have a basis to determine that Allied is not a responsible bidder. I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions from any board members?
None from me.
Mr. Mayor,
No.
Madam Comptroller?
No. Just have Mr. Mullen state his name. He did not state his name at the beginning of his presentation.
I apologize, Madam Comptroller. Michael Mullen from the Law Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. And thank you all members of the board. And Mr. DeShield, I just want to let you know that I'm going to making my duty to work with NBU and OBC to and figure out ways to make changes to the future sub-vendor pre-qualification factors. You know, I'm very big on accountability, and we work on fixing any small issues that we have. With that, and there's no more anyone else opposing, I will entertain a motion.
This is Dana Moore, Acting City Solicitor. I make a motion that the protest, although very well presented and very well argued, be denied. The basis for the denial is that there is a lack of evidence to support the allegation complaint that Allied is not a responsible bidder. So therefore, I move that the protest be denied.
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion carries. The item is approved. As there is no more business before the board, we will recess until bid opening at 12 noon. Thank you for tuning in. Please stay in and stay safe, everyone.
Okay. Good afternoon. The Board of Estimates is now in session for the receiving and opening of bids. In accordance with the directives of the mayor and governor prohibiting gatherings of more than 10 people as part of the overall effort to limit transmission of COVID-19 virus, the Board of Estimates is conducting bid openings remotely. Members of the public can call in to listen to bid openings live by calling 443-984-1696 and entering access code 0817325. That's 443-984-1696 and entering access code 0817325. Board of Estimates meetings are also broadcast live on Charm TV, Channel 25, on Comcast Cable in Baltimore City. Meetings are also streamed on the internet at www.charmcitytv.com/watch-live. That is www.charmtvbaltimore.com/watch-live. The Board of Estimates will continue to conduct bid openings remotely while the state of emergency declared by the Mayor of Baltimore and the Governor of Maryland remains in effect. I have one addendum to note. Department of General Services, GS 16810-R, Mitchell Courthouse roof. In light of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, the bid due date is postponed until further notice. A follow-up addendum will be issued to establish a new bid due date. There are no bids scheduled to be received and open today. There being no more business, we are adjourned. Thank you.